Limitless Wrestling fans, John Alla and the czar of Limitless Wrestling, Randy Carver here. It is another edition of the Limitless Wrestling podcast as we roll through the month of October and we approach the end of 2019, which is pretty crazy as is. What's going on, Randy?
What's going on, man? I'm sitting outside of the Limitless Dojo right now. His class is going on. Your boy Mac Daniels in there putting some work in.
Of course he is.
But I'm excited, man. Fresh blood, just over a week away as we record this, and I think it's a really fun lineup. People are pretty excited for it.
It certainly is an exciting lineup, and that's where we begin our conversation on this episode here. October 25th, it is Fresh Blood. It is not at the Portland Club. It is not at the Westbrook Armory, but where is it, Randy?
It is at the Yarmouth AmVets in Yarmouth, Maine. Post 2, if you didn't see the venue change, we were originally scheduled to be at the Portland Club. But obviously things changed. We've been following Limitless Wrestling for any amount of time. You know that shit changes all the time.
Very true.
But very excited to be in Yarmouth, our debut in Yarmouth, and it's a very nice arena for wrestling. I think it's going to be a venue that really suits us perfectly. It's about a 350 to 400 cap. Great parking. Not far from Portland. It's about 12 minutes down the road. So I think it's going to really benefit everybody, and it allows us a lot more freedom to honestly book some crazier matches with a higher ceiling and more capacity that we can, fill in with fans.
We've had some matches added since the last time we talked, including a really interesting one. I'm curious to see how their styles mesh or clash. Chris Statlander and Caleb Conley. Caleb Conley, of course, had a nice run in Impact doing stuff in their X division. What do you make of this matchup? Why are you doing it? Seems a little out of left field, but could produce a pretty good match in the end.
I think it's very much out of left field, but I think, honestly, a lot of this Fresh Blood card is out of left field because it features a lot of new talent to Limitless Wrestling.
So apropos.
Yeah, and a lot of new talent to Maine Wrestling. Caleb Conley has actually been coming to Maine for quite some time, whether it's for big-time wrestling or pro wrestling experience. I saw him a lot when I was younger, actually, and I think Caleb Conley's always been someone who's very talented, but I think overlooked. I honestly thought that the Impact Wrestling run that he was going to have was really going to propel him to new heights, and I just think he's a really underrated talent. This is actually a match that was requested by Chris Statlander, as she really wanted to have a one-on-one match with Caleb Conley, and what better place to do it? This is someone who a lot of people on the Limitless roster have actually backed Caleb Conley, and there's a long list of people on this show who have been spoken, in high regard by a lot of the Limitless roster, and the time and place just hasn't really added up to have them on a show. And, what better time to really pull the trigger on something like that than now? So I'm interested to see what Caleb Conley has to show for the Limitless family. And we'll see, if he has a good showing, fans want him back. There's no reason why he won't be back in Limitless Wrestling. This is the show to prove it.
Alec Price and CJ Cruz.
Stoked about this one. And if you don't know these guys, we actually just dropped a match on youtube.com/Limitless Wrestling, the last man standing match between these two from earlier this summer in Let's Wrestle. These are two guys who started the year not even truly on the Limitless Wrestling radar, and they've worked their asses off in Let's Wrestle numerous volumes from the start of the year to now, and numerous good showings against each other. So we're bringing the bad blood from Orono to Yarmouth, from Let's Wrestle to Limitless Wrestling, and it's always cool to see guys really take the next step up from Let's Wrestle to Limitless Wrestling, and we're going to see if these two can hang, because I'm going to put these guys on first. It's going to be a 7:15 pre-show Let's Wrestle showcase, so they're going to be the first taste for everybody on October 25th. So and the big spot.
And another first, the first all-woman scramble in Limitless Wrestling. Alley Cat.
It's not the first. It's the second, John. We've had this conversation.
I'm so bad at this. You got to realize here, I'm helping you with a promotion from 25 hours away, 26 hours away, something like that.
I'm not giving you shit, John. I'm saving you a tweet because Bradford the Barber, I know for a fact, would be on your ass because he knows the history of Limitless better than me sometimes.
Right.
But,
okay.
I was saving you some angry tweets there.
Okay.
Trying to.
Well, let's pretend. This is the first, not first, all-woman scramble in Limitless Wrestling history. Alley Cat, Masha Slamovich, Ashley Vox, Skylar, and Jody Threat. What do you think the winner here? What do you think the winner here gets out of this?
Honestly, I I think a big opportunity awaits the winner of this matchup. I think I said this online a couple days ago, but there's a lot of, there's a lot of movement right now in the grand scheme of Limitless Wrestling. We're in such a boom period, but at the same time, a transitional period for independent wrestling, where there's a lot of people who were on the Limitless Wrestling roster last year and were core roster members who are not available to come to Limitless shows now, and probably won't be for quite some time. So with that creates a lot of new opportunities for people to step up, and if they can string some wins together, potentially, fight for a championship, or maybe have the, we have a lot of freedom in Limitless Wrestling.
Right.
So a lot of times when you see someone who's been on a winning streak, or they've had a lot of success in Limitless Wrestling, they can kind of call their own shots sometimes. And I'm not saying it always happens, but to have that freedom to kind of, call somebody out or pitch a match and have it happen, look at the Chris Statlander, Caleb Conley match. That happens because of Chris Statlander's success in Limitless Wrestling. But to go back to the original point, I think the winner of this scramble could definitely be in a position to, work their way up to a championship match, or maybe call somebody out for the next show and have a match on a platform that they couldn't have had elsewhere. So Ashley Vox, especially Alley Cat, Jody Threat, who's looking to, really make an impact after debuting at last show. Masha Slamovich, who had a hell of a weekend at Let's Wrestle in the Limitless studio taping, 3 awesome matches throughout the weekend. So I'm excited for her to get on a big stage in front of Limitless Wrestling fans. But in general, I'm very excited for this match. I'm also excited to see Jeremy Leary shaved bald.
I've seen some pictures.
He'll be there with Skylar.
I've seen some pictures. He's not shying away from the camera.
No, it's not bad. I mean, I'm happy that he's embracing it. But I'm very excited for this match. Scrambles, I say it every time, are one of my favorite matches on the show, because it's all action, it's craziness, and you can't look away for a second, truly. And I think the winner of this match has some big things on the horizon as we close out the year in November.
Again, tickets available limitlesswrestling.com. Until when?
They'll be on sale so we're taping this on Thursday the 17th. So tickets are going to be on sale until Thursday the 24th.
So you got a week
on limitlesswrestling.com. There's under 100 tickets left, though.
Okay.
So if you're wanting to make this show, I would definitely suggest grabbing your tickets early, because we have a very strict capacity. It is a little bigger than the Portland Club, but not by much. So we're gauging around that capacity. We had 840 people last time, but we can't fit that this time. So if you want to ensure that you'll have a ticket and you'll be there that night at Fresh Blood, definitely grab your ticket early.
Well, if you didn't grab a ticket to Let's Wrestle, you missed the all-time attendance record for Let's Wrestle get broken. What happened there, Randy?
Dude, hell of a night. I love Let's Wrestle. It's so fun. And I think we truly, throughout the weekend, because we did a studio taping, as I mentioned, the day after, I think we saw a lot of people truly make their case to be on Limitless Wrestling shows as 2020 starts, because referencing back to the start of this, we do have a lot of, shifting and moving parts in Limitless Wrestling right now. A lot of people have, had their last matches for a while in Limitless Wrestling, which is awesome for them. I'm always stoked for, friends of ours and core roster members to really move up the ladder and be making a living at doing this. But that means we got a lot more open opportunities for wrestlers on the rise right now to become a part of Limitless Wrestling. So I think we saw a lot of people step up, and a lot of people had great weekends, your boy Mac Daniels included.
Of course.
But we had a lot of local support for this show. Over 200 people in the American Legion post.
That's a packed house there.
It's fucking awesome, man. It's truly cool. And that's with another show like 20 minutes down the street. So big thanks to everybody who came out to support, and a big thanks to our roster, who truly a hell of a night. Some awesome matches I would suggest checking out from this show, including Main State Posse versus Alec Price and Channing Thomas, and Calvin Strange versus Mike McCarthy for the Let's Wrestle Championship. Definitely 2 to check out.
Yeah. Well, let's run through the card real quick here. Doug Weiser defeated Perry Von Vicious. How'd the crowd take to this one as an opener?
They love Doug Weiser. They love those damn dirty drifters
they do.
For some reason.
They do.
You can smell them coming from a mile away, but people love them.
Well, everyone smells in that building, so.
It's them, dude. Doug Weiser, a Limitless Dojo trainee who's just starting to get on shows. He's probably 10 to 15 matches deep. And this was another match that was really cool to see the progress that he had. And Perry Von Vicious, honestly, an underrated guy who I can put in truly any scenario and just trust him, which is awesome as a booker to be able to know, like, whatever scenario pops up, I can put Perry Von Vicious in there and he can make something out of it and make it good. You know what I mean?
So what did a big singles win like this mean for Doug?
Dude, it means a lot for the Dirty Drifters in general. We'll get to it later, but they've got their match set for December already. But a big win for Doug Weiser. That puts him in contention for, I don't know, another singles match down the road, I would say. He's truly only had tag team and trios matches so far. So to get a singles win, huge for him. I do want to say real quick, huge thank you to Perry Von Vicious and a huge thank you to Alexander Lee, who are two guys who the people don't normally like, but they saved my ass Saturday night because your boy like blew up his tire, and not even just the tire, but like the rod.
You
like
did?
The tire rod. Dude, I fucked up my car leaving that show, and they came to save my ass. So big thanks to them.
Wow.
Because I would have been stranded off the exit with no one to help.
Yeah, that's not good. Is Alexander Lee still driving my old Honda Accord?
He is. It's still kicking, dude. It's still going good.
That's good. That's good to hear. I basically gifted him that car.
Oh, so, chill out.
I did. I'll tell you the details later. He'll back you up on. He'll back me up on this. I promise you that.
You're not that bad.
The Syndicate defeated the Stigma and Malik Logan. This is a big win for the Syndicate here.
Yeah, this legitimately puts them in tag team title contention. It was announced by general manager Johnny Torres later in the night that the Syndicate would be challenging the Stigma for the Let's Wrestle tag team titles in December. So big win for them that immediately leads to championship opportunities. So that's one that they can be very happy about.
And I know Malik Logan was very grateful for the opportunity. He say anything to you?
He did. He was very grateful for it, and he did really good, honestly. I think we said it last week, but Malik's been a guy who I've seen tremendous amounts of growth in, and he's really been putting the time in to become a better professional wrestler, and it shows. So I'm excited to have him on more shows.
I remember when he first really started working, and I don't know if it's still his finisher, but at that time he did the lowdown, and like the rest of his work was like okay, he's just starting, but he did like the best lowdown I've seen since D'Lo Brown. I was like, man, that was awesome, dude. Just keep doing that, and it'll work every show you're on. So that's my little Malik Logan note. Then my boy Mac Daniels, another huge win. Scott Wilde. I mean, this is enormous, Randy. This puts Mac Daniels right up there in that upper echelon and Let's Wrestle as if he wasn't already, but even furthermore cements it, does it not?
I'd agree. That's 2 straight wins over 2 guys, honestly, who were pillars of Limitless Wrestling throughout year 1. That's Danger Kid, and that's
Why do you keep
Wilde.
putting Eric Greenleaf in the ring with him?
What's wrong with Eric Greenleaf?
Are you kidding me right now?
He had a rough night.
Are
bro.
you
He had a
kidding
rough
me?
night.
I don't care. Good.
You want the world to end for Eric Greenleaf.
I want Eric Greenleaf to be competent, but I know he can't be. It's physically and mentally impossible for him.
Sometimes he has his moments.
Well, every dog has his day. Every broken clock is right once a day.
Your boy Mac Daniels laid out a big challenge.
Yes, he did.
To close this match after defeating Scott Wilde. He challenged Tough Enough runner-up, one of the most popular wrestlers from the state of Maine, Luke Robinson.
Could there be a more perfect matchup?
I don't think so, because honestly, from the time that Mac Daniels started wrestling, that was the comparison. He reminds us a lot of Luke Robinson, brother. Well, now they're going to face off. Luke Robinson has accepted the challenge. He accepted it, within an hour. General manager Johnny Torres made the announcement, so it is official.
Have you spoken to Luke about it?
I have. He's very excited for it. He's very excited to see what Mac Daniels has in the tank, because I think a lot of people judge a book by its cover with Luke Robinson, where he's been out of the ring so long. They expect that ring rust, and they don't realize that he is, he's doing rigorous training every single day of his life.
Yeah, so is Mac Daniels.
He's someone who truly can, step out and step back in and have, not lose a step.
The parallels are crazy, because not only do they look alike, they have similar attitudes. And the thing is, they're both legitimate fitness instructors too. Like, what are the
Yeah,
odds of
that's
that?
kind of wild.
So I think it's like the perfect match. It's a big time test for my guy. He and I have been talking about it already. He's very excited for it. And if he wins that, which he will, I mean, he beats a staple of Maine wrestling, as you just said. And I think it's undeniable at that point that he's not just knocking on the door of the main event of Let's Wrestle, he's knocking on the door of Limitless Wrestling, too.
I would say so. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Oh, I will.
He is, I don't know, 15 matches deep in his career. He's had impressive performances so far, but again, he's, this is the biggest test of his career. This is the first time, truly he's faced someone the caliber of Luke Robinson, in my opinion. And that's not taking anything away from Scott or Danger Kid or Aiden Agro, but
yeah, but you even said to me, this was, and the thing is, this is probably one of his biggest challenges. You and I were talking about this too, Mac Daniels. He had never gone against speed like Scott. And maybe it got the best of him at first, but he adapted, made corrections, adjusted, and won the match.
He did.
And I think that's something that's worth mentioning because it's always worth mentioning talking about Mac Daniels.
I agree totally.
Okay. Man of few words when you're talking about the best thing that's happening to Let's Wrestle at this moment in time. Anyway, Ryan Gosling defeated Davian. That's a big win for BRG.
That's a huge one for BRG. I mean, he's
not as big as Scott Wilde, but whatever.
True. Okay, whatever. That's being a former Let's Wrestle champion. So I think there's some magnitude to that victory, and I think BRG definitely could be in line for a championship opportunity soon, if not the Let's Rumble coming up in January. So he's got some big opportunities on the horizon. If he can keep stringing together some victories, there's no reason he wouldn't be in title contention.
Let's Rumble in January. Interesting. MSP defeated Alec Price and Channing Thomas. You said people need to go out of their way to see this one.
Yep. One of the matches of the night, in my opinion. Main State Posse just kill it every fucking time, truly. And Alec Price, Channing Thomas, a really fun team that's been introduced to Let's Wrestle. And Alec Price now makes his Limitless debut coming up next week. Channing Thomas made his this past July. So these are guys who, they started in Let's Wrestle really near the beginning, and now they're making waves in Limitless Wrestling. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this team maybe by the end of the year, but I would definitely say at the start of next year in Limitless Wrestling.
CJ Cruz won the inaugural Gordon Stewart Memorial Battle Royal.
Big win for him. That guarantees him a spot in the 2020 Let's Rumble in January. And this is a dude, again, making his Limitless Wrestling debut next week. He's been stringing together some wins and momentum lately, and he's keeping it alive there with the win. And he last eliminated the prize Alec Price. So that's gonna make him feel pretty good heading into fresh blood, I would assume.
Masha Slamovich defeated Ava Everett and Angel Sinclair. That's a way to make an impression.
It is. We saw Ava Everett in that match as well, cut ties with Angel Sinclair, attacking her and literally fucking sabooing her with a chair.
Ugh.
It was crazy. But a big win for Masha Slamovich as she heads into her Limitless Wrestling debut as well at Fresh Blood, the Russian Dynamite. She had an incredible weekend, as I said, so I'm very excited to see what Limitless fans think of her as she makes her debut, but a big win.
Alexander Lee and Candy Copeland defeated CJ Cruz and Ricky Archer.
Impressive debut from Ricky Archer. He's a New England Pro Wrestling Academy student. He's someone who's been tagging with CJ Cruz in a couple promotions. I know they just started teaming in Chaotic Wrestling, but someone who was suggested to me by a few of the New England Pro Wrestling Academy guys did not disappoint, but unfortunately they came out on the losing end to the team of Alexander Lee and Kennedy Copeland, who are a very fun duo.
And then Calvin Strange defeated the masshole Mike McCarthy to retain the Let's Wrestle Championship. We talked about maybe a bit of a styles clash going into this one. How did you think it went down?
It was a very interesting dynamic to this match because Mike McCarthy is usually a guy who likes to have some fun. He picks his nose looking for boogers to shove in people's mouths, but it was a very serious masshole Mike McCarthy in this match. I think he knew the magnitude of it. He knew it was on the line. So it was cool to see, how he performs in a big match situation like that. The problem was Calvin Strange will go to, any
length. Yep.
He'll absolutely do it all to retain the championship, and that's what he did. But general manager Johnny Torres tried to do his best to kind of make it up to the masshole Mike McCarthy after he screwed and leveled with the championship for Calvin to retain. He made a tag team match for December 14th, and I want to talk about that a little bit in a second. But the tag team match will be Calvin Strange and his protege, Limitless Dojo student Dave Dyer, colliding with the masshole Mike McCarthy and Brett Ryan Gosling in a tag team match. So very excited to see that. Big stipulation as well. If Masshole wins, he gets to face Calvin one more time in January at Let's Rumble for the Let's Wrestle Championship with a stipulation of his choice. However, if he loses, Mike McCarthy will not be able to challenge for the Let's Wrestle Championship as long as Calvin is champion. So big implications on that match for the future of Let's Wrestle heading into 2020.
Also for that show on December 14th, MSP versus the Dirty Drifters, obviously the biggest test for the Drifters to date.
This is fucking bizarre. If you had told me at the beginning of this year that in December I would have booked fucking Danger Kid and Aiden Agro against Jacob Drifter, Doug Weiser, and Ike the Bite, I don't know what the hell I would have said. But, dude, the Dirty Drifters have been putting in a lot of hard work at the Limitless Dojo, and they've been training their asses off. So
you think they're ready for this?
That they have earned, and we heard Danger Kid on the mic post-match after they beat Channing and Alec. He made the proposition. He said, I want to have some fun, and I want to wrestle guys who've been busting their ass and deserve an opportunity like we did 4 years ago. So it's pretty cool to see, you know, the guys who are tearing it up now on the tag team scene in New England, who came from, you know, this area, Central Maine. Now they're going to collide with guys who are truly in the Maine State Posse's position 4 or 5 years ago.
And we also, of course, have Luke Robinson versus Mac Daniels, as we discussed. But most importantly, this show on December 14th is a fundraiser for Mark Godfrey, who has been around the Maine wrestling scene for a while. He helped out a lot in IWE during my time there. Oh, he's currently hospitalized. What's the situation there, and how's this fundraiser going down?
Yeah, so Mark Godfrey was a former independent wrestler in the state of Maine. He was actually on the first ever independent wrestling show I ever attended. I have a picture of myself dressed up as Jeff Hardy with him in a headlock. It's an amazing picture.
I need to see that picture.
I will post it soon. But Mark had to unfortunately retire a few years ago from any in-ring competition. He's been dealing with kidney failure, and he's had 6 emergency surgeries in the past 2 months. He's had a really rough go of it, like from the end of the summer into the fall. And Eric Johnson actually came to me with the idea to do this fundraiser. He wanted to do something for him and just try to figure out some way to alleviate the financial pressure, especially heading into Christmas. He's a father. So I'm excited to do what we can. And I truly think, you know, we've had a lot of success with any of the like fundraisers that we've done before. So I'm very excited to try to help him out, because this is a dude who in his times of, you know, health battles and financial battles, he's always been there for really anybody in the local, you know, Central Maine independent wrestling scene. If a show needed help with something, he was always there. He obviously couldn't compete, but he'd be helped. I think during your time, he was doing a lot of camera work.
Yeah, he was doing a lot there
with security.
Yep.
Such a helpful guy, truly such a helpful guy, and he's not someone who ever asks for help. So I'm very excited that we can just give him some help.
Try to help him out a bit.
To get him back on his feet.
Yep, no doubt. So make sure you get your tickets for that as well, limitlesswrestling.com. And we'll have some more updates as that gets closer, obviously. We asked you to send in some questions for Ask Limitless. You want to rattle some off here?
Yeah, let's do it up.
Let's do it. Justin asks, thoughts on the Limitless Tag Team Championships that don't exist quite yet? I feel like we get this question a lot.
We get it, I think, every single time we do an Ask Limitless, because now that we have a championship, they can transition to another one. But there are no plans as of right now for tag team championships.
It's a booking thing.
It is, because it's very tough to, number one, get, you know, singles wrestlers who I can consistently book. It's very tough to have like a core roster right now in independent wrestling. The dust is starting to settle, honestly, because now we're starting to realize, okay, these are how the contracts work for different promotions now. Because honestly, over the past 2 years, basically every major promotion has changed their way of doing contracts. WWE pretty much does the same thing, but most others have changed what they do for their contracts or their exclusive deals or whatever the fuck. So now that we have an idea of, who's signed, who's not, who's exclusive where, it is getting easier, I would say, to kind of figure out, booking, I guess, booking long term. But it's even harder to do it with tag teams because tag team wrestling right now is hot. It's in demand, and there aren't a ton of great tag teams going right now that are available all the time. The really good teams are booked up quite far in advance. So, and I don't want to, I've said this from the start, I don't want to throw teams together. I don't want to dumb down, with teams that may not be limitless quality. I always want to keep our show quality high, and I don't want to introduce championships that I don't think we could do justice with, doing good pieces of business, I guess I would say. I hate talking like that. It sounds so fucking official, but I wouldn't want to introduce them and not have set teams to really roll with it with and carry the division. I just don't want to do it half-assed. So as of right now, there's no plans to do it, but that's not saying, I said that we wouldn't have a championship forever, and now look where we are. So that's not saying it's never going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ever say never, but it certainly could happen sometime.
Absolutely. I'm not saying it won't happen, but as of right now, there's no plans.
So there you go, folks. Let's see here. We got at Kill Assist. Will this new venue in Yarmouth allow for monthly shows in a dream situation bi-weekly?
I don't know about bi-weekly yet, but I do think that this could be a monthly hub for Limitless Wrestling. We obviously have to try it out and see how it goes. We have our next two events booked at the Yarmouth AmVets. That is Fresh Blood on October 25th, and then our return on Black Friday, November 29th. So mark that down if you haven't yet. But we got to feel it out, see how it goes. I do think, though, I'm very optimistic, and I do think that this could be a place where we have consistent shows, which it's been very tough. We've talked about it at length. It's tough to find a good venue that is also available and wants you there for numerous dates. You know what I mean? Because wrestling is it's so weird to venue owners for us to come in there and do what we do. Wrestling is a wild thing to people who don't follow it, but the venue's been nothing but cool so far, and it's been such an easy transition venue to venue. So I do think if all goes well with these next two events, I think you could be seeing monthly Limitless shows in Yarmouth.
That would be very exciting.
It would be, man. It really would.
I'd be down with that. This is a question I know you're very excited to answer. So, Mikey asks, what are your thoughts about Trevor Murdoch wrestling again for NWA, and have you checked it out? So, first off, this is NWA Power, which I can't remember if we talked about on the last episode, but you and I have talked about it. If not, it's absolutely awesome in its presentation, like super, super cool. But Trevor Murdoch, Randy's talked about it like once on here. That's like his guy. Randy loves Trevor Murdoch, so you got to be stoked for this.
Oh, I'm beyond stoked for this. Someone tagged me in something on Twitter. It was the day of the NWA tapings. Like, they were going on. And someone tagged me in something on Twitter that said it was the result of Ricky Starks defeating Trevor Murdoch. And I'm like, oh, like someone tagged me in a text post of it. And I literally looked at it and said, this is just a bot Twitter. I'm not touching it. And I literally 2 minutes later, Mikey, who asked this question, tagged me in a photo, and there's fucking Trevor Murdoch.
And you're losing your mind.
In the NWA ring, and I lost my shit. I may or may not have messaged Trevor Murdoch.
I was gonna say.
So stay tuned, but I haven't heard back yet. So I'm hoping that he wants to do more than just NWA. But I understand if that's all
what do you love so much about Trevor Murdoch,
dude?
Look, he and Cade were he and Cade were a good tag team. I really did enjoy them.
Fucking right, they were.
They were a good tag team. Not the most charismatic tag team, but when you got there in the ring, the two could work. And Murdoch is just one of those guys. Doesn't look like he should be a pro wrestler. Looks like he's a legit trucker, which he kind of is. And he goes in there and kicks some ass, no doubt.
He was believable for me.
Very believable.
That was a big thing where...
Yeah, because he looked like all your neighbors.
True, but he went in there and whipped people's ass, dude. Yeah. He was so fun to watch in that aspect, because that was something that I craved when I was first getting it. Like, he's someone I really enjoyed when I first got into professional wrestling, which seems bizarre, but that's the time frame.
It's just so funny because like I saw it and I was like, oh my God, Randy probably just lost his mind.
I did, dude. You don't even know.
I was like, he is probably the only person. But
Dude, it's funny too because I'm friends with him on Facebook, and he posted a picture like near the end, like with the NWA set that day, and I just thought, because I know that he's been out of the ring for a couple years,
Mhm.
like I just thought he was going to agent. You know what I mean?
right.
I didn't think he was actually going to wrestle, but fuck, man, he still got it. Now,
Yeah.
Did you watch him and Ricky Starks?
Yeah, I did.
That's fun.
Trevor Murdoch looks exactly the same.
He does.
He doesn't look like he's aged, but he also looked 45 when he was in WWE. So
Hey, man, he'll be 45 till he dies, probably.
Vincent asks, what are your thoughts on getting some of the older legends to come in just for meet and greet purposes?
I think that'd be cool.
They
It's
got to be
just
willing to
not-
travel to Maine just for a meet and greet, though.
Yeah, it's just not something that I'm always looking for, because Limitless Wrestling is truly about the in-ring action.
Yeah.
That's always what it's been about, having good quality professional wrestling. We're not truly like a meet and greet kind of promotion. We never really have been. But if the scenario, like if it worked out for something cool that we could do something fun on the show, I would absolutely do it. But I'm more focused on really, cultivating the new crop of independent wrestlers for Limitless Wrestling fans.
Yeah.
That's truly what the goal is, and mixing the up and coming core roster talent that we provide with some of the best talent in the world, and that's what I want to do. Like it's not a convention style, it's not a meet and greet style thing. Although we do have meet and greets, I want guys who are coming in and tearing it up in the ring, and that's just always what Limitless has been about. So I don't think that it's something that you can expect very much of, but obviously if a scenario fell into our lap to have some cool meet and greet for a reasonable price that would pump up our fans, why wouldn't I do it? But that just doesn't happen very often.
The Undertaker is going for 10 grand.
I heard it was much more than that, but that's a lot.
So let's see here. I'm going to combine two questions because they're kind of about the same thing.
Do it.
Matt asks, are AEW talent available to take any indie dates? I feel like I missed an opportunity to meet Private Party. I should have known they'd be the tag team of the 20s. And Derek asked, what's next for MJF and Limitless? So just kind of an overarching AEW question here. First off, there was a lot of meat on Dynamite this week, wasn't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
John Silver getting a chance
That was
to
fucking
mix
cool.
it up with Santana and Ortiz, which, if I'm not mistaken, you did a Thick Boys LAX match at one point, correct?
Yeah, that was the Thick Boys debut, actually. Question the Answers in 2017. Jay Freddy and John Silver versus Santana and Ortiz.
That's pretty
So
cool.
They're no strangers whatsoever, but very cool. Like, so we're having class, and someone just casually mentioned, "Oh, John Silver's on AEW," and I'm like, "No, he fucking isn't."
And he was on WWE just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and I log on to Twitter, and sure as shit, there's John Silver and Alex Reynolds all over AEW wrestling Santana and Ortiz. So very cool, and I'm very happy for John Silver, who is another guy who I think is very underrated, criminally underrated, I think. And he's had good match after good match after good match in Limitless Wrestling. He's going to have another one next week against Layla Hirsch. So very cool to see that.
Yeah, so let's get back to the question. Are the talent available to take indie dates?
So to my knowledge, no.
They have to be approved under special circumstance, as far
Correct.
as what I know.
Correct. And that does happen. I saw recently, I think it was Southside Wrestling had like numerous UK talents who were working with WWE UK. They were pulled off the card by the WWE. So AEW stepped in, and I think they sent Cody, Brandy, MJF, and like Goldust. For instance, Goldust is also doing a show in New England, I think in November. It's more of a thing right now is AEW is kind of letting guys run out the duration of the bookings that they had previously. A lot of those people are done doing that, though, like an MJF or a Darby, for instance. Darby was done a couple months ago.
I want to talk about Darby in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well, what's
I-
and the other question is what's next for MJF, so you can tie that all together here.
I would say that MJF is not done with Limitless Wrestling, but for the moment, he's not here. I don't think you'll be seeing much, if any, AEW talent on the independents moving forward, especially in Limitless Wrestling. Unless obviously they sign someone who's on the independents right now. But yeah, I think those contracts pretty much as of October, like the end of this month, I think most of them become pretty much U.S. exclusive unless it's something that AEW itself has authorized.
A couple things I want to talk about with AEW first here. Very clear just 3 weeks in that Darby Allin is going to be one of their top guys.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
And that's just amazing, isn't that?
I think after going to the 20-minute draw or the 30-minute, whatever it was with Cody, that it was very apparent that something was going to be done with Darby Allin. And fuck, like, why not? Like, Darby Allin.
I said this, Randy. He's their Jeff Hardy.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Absolutely, yes. And fuck, like, he's been good for a long time. I just think I don't know if I talked to a fellow promoter about this recently because honestly, in this area, I think Limitless and GCW and then Northeast at the very end were the only three to use Darby really consistently in the Northeast. And it baffled me as to why, because like one of the things that I always try to do to make it easier on everybody and get the guys more bookings is I always try to team up with another promotion. And like if I'm bringing in Darby on a Friday and I hit up Darby and be, yo, you have the Saturday open? He says, yes. I'll try to get him another booking so that we can split the flight and fill his weekend. And a lot of people, like Darby was just one of those dudes who I could never fill it out for. And it always baffled me as to why. But I wonder if like promotion saw him and thought he was reckless or thought he was just crazy.
He's I mean, like I said, it's the Jeff Hardy. He's an enigma. And like
he had some of the best matches that we've had.
He's just a freak of nature. He's a freak of nature. And the things that he does are just amazing. Did you watch the championship match with him and Jericho?
I've seen pieces of it. I haven't got to sit down and actually watch it yet. But from everything that I saw, I mean, it doesn't surprise me though, because like,
no, because we've seen it.
I know how good fucking Darby can be, you know. But it's so I guess heartwarming to a sense to see him do this on such a stage with Chris fucking Jericho of all people.
Who, by the way, has been unbelievable in the promotion so far.
It's just he's a reinventor all the time. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, but they had an awesome. It was a great street fight. Darby Allin in the third episode of the show's history is main eventing for their championship, and I mean, he does a springboard moonsault with his hands taped behind his back. It's just insane. He's incredible. He's going to be their world champion one day. All I kept saying was, man, I'm watching it and I'm like, he's Jeff Hardy. He's Jeff Hardy. And, you know, Jeff Hardy has made a pretty good career for himself. So I think Darby Allin is well on his way. You mentioned GCW a little bit here. Jessica wants to know, why haven't you booked Nick Gage yet?
I like Nick Gage. I've watched a lot of Nick Gage lately, and he's like, I've come around because I was someone who was not a fan of Nick Gage previously, just because I had seen, like, I knew of Nick Gage from basically a strictly deathmatch standpoint when he was like a CZ Dub regular, and really before this resurgence of Nick Gage. And I've just become a big fan of his stuff lately. I think if the situation, you know, if we have a right situation to bring in Nick Gage and put him in a fucking wild environment, we will. But I don't want to bring in Nick Gage until we have that, you know, scenario open to us, because I think that's where he thrives the most. And I think it'll come. It's just a matter of when.
John from Orlando wants to know, what do you think about Superhuman working the indies now?
Jeez, dude.
This one's for all the juggalos and juggalettes.
To be honest.
Let's get him up. Let's get him up there. Let's put him and... Who can we put him with? Cannonball. Let's do a match with him and Cannonball.
I wonder what the deal is with this dude. Like, he's speaking of enigmas, he's an enigma. But
you can't help but look like it's a train wreck, but you have to watch
it. Dude, it's funny as fuck though. Like I watched the spot with him and Ethan Page, and it was
incredible.
People loved it, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I think the one thing that I would say about it is I think the promoters need to make sure that this dude is protected.
Mm-hmm.
He shouldn't be put into stupid scenarios. I don't even know if he should be put into matches, but if he's coming in to do like a fun spot with Ethan Page like they did at GCW, I'm all for that.
I mean, he just beat Joey Ryan clean. the other day.
Yeah.
So,
Wrestling though. I mean, I would trust Joey Ryan with him too. I worry when things like this become a thing
yeah,
because it only
right.
takes one bad promoter to put him in a bad
Well,
situation and have shit go haywire.
look at David Arquette. What happened with him?
That was nuts.
So
That was nuts.
yeah. So, Andreas, a lot of good talent coming out of the Maritimes area right now. Is there anybody that's catching the eyes of Limitless?
Absolutely. Lil Blay. I got to see him a couple times this weekend. He was up for the Limitless studio taping we did on Sunday. He had 2 bangers, and he's someone who I want to get back in Limitless Wrestling soon. Covey Christ is another one who also debuted in Limitless Wrestling over the summer. He was at the 2019 Vacation Land Cup as a part of the Scramble. If you haven't seen that, that's up for free. Lil Blay also involved in that match. So those are 2 guys who I've been checking out very frequently. I would also have to go with Marco Estrada, who I saw at one of the Pro Wrestling Experience events over the summer. He's been someone who's been wrestling a long time. I don't think he's got a ton of notoriety in this area for the good matches that he's had, but he's someone who I want to bring to Maine at some point soon.
Hey, I saw Squishy got married this past week.
He did. Congratulations to Squishy of Ring Loyals, former Limitless Wrestling referee.
He's a good guy.
Dude.
Very nice guy. So he's up there too. Ryan asks, any thoughts on a Saturday matinee show?
This is another one. I'm not trying to relate, Saturday afternoons to Nick Gage, but if the scenario fit, it would be something that we would do. I don't think what I'm trying to do more so heading into 2020 is do Saturday shows in general. I think they work better for a lot of people. The only issue is that tons of wrestling promotions run on Saturday. So it's been a lot easier to book talent on Fridays than Saturdays, also buildings as well. But I do want to try to convert our live events to at least being like 75% on Saturdays as we head into next year. But I talked about it a little, and I almost pulled the trigger on doing a double shot in October, doing the 25th and then the 26th. But it wasn't something that was going to work out for us. It wasn't something that was going to work out for our ring rental. So it wasn't something that we did. But I do think that a Saturday afternoon show could be in the works. I just don't know of when. We do a couple in the summer when we do like festival shows and shit like that. But we've never done an actual like Limitless show on a Saturday afternoon or really any afternoon. So it's something we're going to look into, especially thinking about doing some double shots next year.
Logan asks, what debut at Fresh Blood excites you the most? And this is to both of us. You know my answer.
Yeah.
It's Gangrel, man. There's going to be a whole legion of fans there that have never seen Gangrel work in person. And moreover, for a guy like you, Randy, you're going to get to meet him and realize that he is truly a good dude who's doing a lot of service for the pro wrestling community these days.
He absolutely is. I'm very excited for that as well. This is tough to narrow down because there's a lot of debuts on this show. I said earlier, I'm very excited for Masha Slamovich to debut. I'm very excited for both Alec Price and CJ Cruz. I truly think they're going to kill it on a bigger stage. And hopefully, I think they're going to grow into Limitless core roster members. I truly do. And I hope that this opportunity opens up more doors for them in the area. Dominic Guarini is another one as well, who I'm very excited for. He teams with Kevin Koo to take on the Mainstay Posse. But I think I'm with you. I think I'm very stoked for Gangrel. I think that match is so weird and interesting, too, that it's going to be such a fun clusterfuck of fucking just weirdos, to be honest.
Now, when you put them all around Eric Greenleaf, it becomes even stranger.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Tony says, tell us about the process of booking a card from what's being put where and in regards to choice of who faces who. Well, Randy and I have kind of talked about this on shows in the past, especially the what's being put where. Randy's a big believer in the roller coaster philosophy, and you want the crowd to ride the show, if that makes any sense. So I think we've hit on that a lot, but what about who's facing who? Because that's not necessarily something we talk about too much.
Well, to touch on the first part, because I know we have before, but I do like to try to construct it as like a roller coaster ride where I do like to put a match that's got, 2 or 4 or however many people. I like to put some of the hardest workers on first. some of the guys who are gonna, like, if someone's in the building, they're at their first wrestling show, I want them to be blown away and floored by whatever the first match is. And I think on top of that, we look at some of the openers in recent history, like a Teddy Hart versus Darby Allin, for instance, or Kevin Blackwood, Christian Casanova, Dan Face Romero. All those matches killed, and I think that forces everybody on the card to work harder as well. So I think it helps motivate a locker room and really pushes people to the next level. But as to who's wrestling who, it depends on the show. I mean, obviously, it depends on who's booked. That's a no-brainer. But I think, like, with fresh blood in general, this was a very fun one because we kind of threw everything to the side and just looked at it and said, all right, what's going to be cool for people to fucking watch? Like, and we don't always get to do that because sometimes we have different programs set up, or we have rivalries coming to a head, or we have, sometimes our hands are tied in certain scenarios. But this time was very fun because it was just, it's saying, all right, who I have a list of people on my computer who I keep, who it's a list of guys and girls who are not Limitless core roster members. They're people who I find through Twitter, or I find through Facebook, or people sending in stuff, or just on the good word of other wrestlers within Limitless Wrestling and Let's Wrestle. And I keep that so I can continuously go check them out and figure out when the right time is to bring them in. And this show created an opportunity to, bring in a lot of those people. So, for instance, Dominic Guarini and Kevin Koo, I think they're going to provide a different test for the Main State Posse than they've ever had. They're very stiff strikers, stiff kickers. Dominic Guarini being a Brazilian jiu-jitsu specialist. So I think that's something that the Main State Posse has yet to encounter in tag team competition. So it's about really just trying to put together the best fun matches and really differentiate a card.
Right.
This one as well, we have Fred Yehi and Daniel Garcia, which could be, for technical wrestling fans, one of the best matches that we have all year. You've got, your Haas fight, I don't even know if you can call it a Haas fight. This is relaxed rules, so this is going to be mayhem. Dan Moth and Matthew Justice.
It's going to be awesome.
The big thing that I like to do, I heard this from Mike Quackenbush one time, is you always want to have like a smorgasbord card if you can, all different flavors of ice cream. And that's something that I've always held in high regard, and I've always tried to do, because I know that there's so many different styles of wrestling out there. If we can hit on most of those in one show, I think it's a success. So truly, when putting matches together, I just want to create the most fun and well-rounded card that we can every single time.
Absolutely. Jenna says, very excited to see Alec Price and CJ Cruz take the leap from Let's Wrestle to Limitless. Who do you think is next from Let's Wrestle roster to take the step up?
Oh, that's a good question.
To me, there's a couple. Calvin Strange.
Yes.
Who has wrestled on a Limitless show before, but in a pre-show match. I mean, obviously biased, but I don't think he's tremendously far off. Would be Mac Daniels at some point within the next calendar year. I think that's certainly a possibility. I personally, Randy, would love to see a pre-show match on every single one of these cards featuring just Let's Wrestle talent. And
I think that'd be fun.
And warm the crowd up a little bit as they're entering the building. You can start the match before everyone's in full, get everyone warmed up, hyped up, and set the tone for the show that's about to happen with some, and get those guys working in front of a little bit of a bigger crowd.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea at all.
Of course not. I said it.
I agree with Calvin for sure. I think Mac Daniels, again, I'm interested to see him in this big match situation he's got in December, but I'm with you, man. I think within a calendar year, I do think that we could see him in Limitless Wrestling if his progression keeps up. Mike McCarthy is another one who
is supposed to be there.
He hasn't been in Limitless Wrestling just due to bad circumstances. Mm-hmm. He's been announced for 2 separate shows, Pretenders Beware and the 2019 VLC. He got injured just before both of those events, so it's a matter of time for Mike McCarthy. I would say Dave Yen as well, former Let's Wrestle champion. She's been in Limitless quite often, but she hasn't been in Limitless for, I don't know, most of this year, I would say. So she's someone who I could see back very soon. And I'm going to close out with one more. Channing Thomas, I would say, even though he debuted earlier this year. Channing, I said it earlier, I think he's another guy who's right on the cusp of potentially being a Limitless Wrestling core roster member moving forward.
At JD Robbie, I think I'm saying that right. Any thoughts of doing a live stream on IWTV, and could we see the IWTV title defended in Limitless?
Yes and yes. We've been talking to IWTV for months. It's more been a venue thing with IndependentWrestling.tv because you have to have a certain internet connection at the venues to even have a shot at streaming. And luckily in Yarmouth, it is something that we can do. So we're looking at November right now, actually, potentially being our streaming debut on IWTV. So stay tuned for that. Nothing set in stone, though. And I do think that we could see an independent wrestling championship match on a Limitless show coming up soon. Warhorse being the current IWTV champion. And Warhorse is on my short list of guys that's on my computer that I've wanted to get back in Limitless Wrestling for quite some time. So I'm going to try to see if we can set something up with Warhorse and IWTV, maybe get a championship match and a stream for November. Who knows?
And our final question comes to us from Bryce. We hear a lot of talk about the pillars of Limitless on the podcast. Make a prediction. Who will be the pillars of Limitless 1 year from now?
Great question.
I think Kevin Blackwood's on there.
I was going to go with that whole Buffalo car of like Blackwood, Puff, and Daniel Garcia. Because I think that all three of those guys, they bust their ass. They've become core roster members of Limitless Wrestling over the past year. And with everything that's happened, these dudes are better than ever right now to close the year. At the beginning of the year, who fucking knew if Kevin and Dan would wrestle again, truly. And now they're here. They've busted their ass to get here. And I think all three of them could be considered pillars as we, move into next year. I would say, it's hard to believe that she wouldn't be signed, but I'd say Ashley Vox
No doubt.
as well.
No doubt.
It's just tough. I'm trying to think of who I truly think is going to be signed by that time next year.
I think Anthony will be.
Yeah, I absolutely think.
I think Josh Briggs will be.
Yes, I agree with you there. I would go. I'm going to say the Main State Posse, who have truly been. I mean, they've been pillars for a couple of years, but I think throughout next year, they're going to continue to rise up in Limitless Wrestling, and I really want to throw some new shit at them going into next year too. So they're going to be put to the test for sure. I'm going to say Jody Threat. I'm going to go out on a limb.
You're that high on her, huh?
I really like Jody Threat. I really do, and I think she's so different. Not even with her look, but her style of wrestling, and just such a great reaction for her on her debut. I'd say Layla Hirsch as well. The only thing I worry about with Layla is I think she's going to pick up very quickly, and I don't know how many dates we're going to get her for. So.
And I'd say Christian Casanova, but I think he'll be signed a year from now too.
Christian was on the tip of my tongue, but there's no reason that Christian won't be signed somewhere by the end of next year. There's no reason. He's so good, and put in the right scenarios, I think he's one of the best wrestlers on any card right now.
Totally agree with that. Very high praise from you there, Randy, and I'm sure we will have high praise for the Fresh Blood card again that comes to you in about a week, LimitlessWrestling.com. Barely 100 tickets left, folks. Get yours now. It's going down in Yarmouth, not in Portland. A little bit of a bigger venue, higher ceilings. That's a good thing, and you're going to want to check it out. Randy, anything else you want to add?
While we were on the subject of IndependentWrestling.tv, I just wanted to mention there are 15 total full events from Limitless Wrestling on IWTV.com. You can go to IndependentWrestling.tv, sign up, use the promo code LIMITLESS, and you get 20 days free before you get billed. So if you want to just give it a test run, you can do it for 20 days using that promo code. And if you stick around, they throw us a little kickback for it, which is always appreciated. So definitely check that out. Know Your Enemy is going to drop this week on IWTV. So that'll be 16 full events. And there's, shit from other promotions like CZW, AIW, Beyond Wrestling, over 200 promotions, I believe, on this streaming service. So check that out if you haven't. And also youtube.com/Limitless Wrestling. We're uploading shit all the time right now. We just did a studio taping, so a lot of that stuff's going to drop this week, as well as Let's Wrestle Volume 9 and Volume 10. So be checking that out for more updates and free matches pretty much every day moving forward into Fresh Blood.
Very exciting stuff, Randy. We will see you guys next time on the Limitless Wrestling Podcast.